Yo, what's up, legends? What do you think, legends? Maybe I was thinking about renaming your level as legends and the regular level as rockers. What do you think? Or crew members? I think crew members and then rockers. Legends? I don't know. Kind of going down that route because I want something that honors that, like, you're doing something cool. And then I appreciate it. So yeah. Either way, thanks for continued support through the memberships. It does help. Yeah. So bike park season is over. I spent a fair bit of the weekend up at Snow Valley because Snow Valley was open 2 weeks longer than Snow Summit, and Snow Valley is like the less developed park in Southern California, less developed lift access park. I'm trying to be diplomatic about the terms there because the thing that's on my mind this morning is a weird type of what's the word I'm looking for? What is it called? It's called not colloquialism, provincial. There's like a provincial attitude I find around smaller bike parks, like a insecure, like defensive attitude, not around the bike parks, but around people who like go to the bike parks. And it's something I noticed a few years ago. Maybe you experienced this in your local areas where maybe it's different trail systems and people are kind of tribal around the trail systems. I don't know. It's interesting. So I have been going to Snow Summit for several years and have shared publicly how much I enjoy going to Snow Summit because I do have a blast when I'm there. And Snow Valley opened a few years ago, and I had a boogie. Could you see my boogie? I went there a few years ago when they first opened, and they were still super raw, and I ended up just not going there that much because I was just having such a blast at Snow Summit. And pretty early on in the life of Snow Valley, I was getting comments about why do you hate Snow Valley? And I don't think it really had anything to do with me in particular, but they're just there grew up this tribalism, like Snow Valley versus Snow Summit, and it would show up in my comments as I'd post a video on Snow Summit, and maybe there was a clip where there was some long lines in the clip, and people would be like, "Duh, man, that's why I go to Snow Valleys, because Snow Summit is just long lines." And then it was mostly people just talking about how they preferred Snow Valley over Snow Summit, and I really didn't get the other comments, maybe because I was at Snow Summit more, but I didn't pay too much attention to it. But then I've been going to Snow Valley more recently, mostly because Snow Summit closed for the season, and very often I'm on a chair with people that I don't know, but they know me, and they would try to have conversations, oftentimes just adjacent to me with each other, about how cool Snow Valley is and how it's better than Snow Summit in certain ways. And and to me it's I don't really care. I like having fun on bikes. I tend to have more fun at Snow Summit because I like their jump lines, and I also just the energy there, the lifties and the trail crew and everybody. There's just really good vibes there all the time. It's a bit of a different vibe at Snow Valley, and Snow Valley has fun stuff. I have fun when I'm there. I just have more fun when I'm at Snow Summit. And but the whole time, every time I went up this last couple of weekends, like there was several people who would like feel the need, like unprompted, would for some reason feel the need to defend Snow Valley to me. And this is, for me, this is all in the context of like, I've been to, now, I've actually gone and ridden in multiple places. I've, been to Whistler Bike Park now and ridden in Bentonville and just ridden all these different places. So to me, it's just like, they're just two other places that I ride. But what it really made me think about is like when we become really defensive or insecure about our little thing, our I don't want to say little thing, but our thing that we're into. I feel like a lot of times it comes from maybe a back of the head knowledge that we're not experiencing as much as we could. And if we admit to ourselves that like the thing that we're into, the thing that we're doing, the place that we're going is like has some issues, we have to face that. And and that can come in the form of like, oh, this other place is actually better. And then you feel like you're missing out, and then you feel like you're associated with the less cool thing, and thus your validity, your worth as a person is less or something. I don't know. I'm attaching it to that because I feel like the defensive response is just so like deep seated when it comes out of us. And so to me, it's like I have no problem like going to a place that I think is like not as good, not as cool, whatever, if we're having fun, because it's not like you can, whatever place you're at, you can make of it what you want to make of it. And some of this is probably because, again, I got so much out of being a skateboarder. I got so much out of that culture, out of that just way of operating. Because, I started skating in the 80s. And in the 80s, you didn't have all the parks and stuff that we have now. You didn't have the kind of resources. So you skated whatever you could skate, whatever you could find. And that meant that you pretty much never were skating something that was built to be skated. So it was shitty in one way or another, and that shittiness actually became part of its character, part of what you liked about it. I can think of this one like weird, like there was in like downtown Nashville, there was like this weird like alleyway, and then it had like there was a parking lot next to the exit of the alleyway, and they needed to make like a transition onto it. And like the entry was like this janky, cracked sidewalk, and you were crossing an alley, and there was like usually like piss over there. And then the transition was all weird. I don't know. And then the landing was like a gravelly kind of thing, but you made it work. And none of the transitions were good. None of the entries, none of the exits were good. You're always trying to not get hit by a car, but that became part of the skill. And when you could ride something like that smooth or just do something cool on it, it meant that much more than having like a manicured thing. So when I go ride someplace that maybe isn't the coolest place in the world, I just find ways to make it cool. I find ways to enjoy it and enjoy it for what it is. Speaking specifically about Snow Valley, the dirt there, if you can call it that, is really like, it's not just loose, it's sandy. There's like big sandy sections. Every turn is super loose, and like even if you can hit the same turn 20 times and get traction, and on the 21st time the exact same spot, for whatever reason you just wash out. But you start becoming good at you start becoming more sensitive to when that's going to happen, or more ready to handle when something like that happens, and it just makes you a better rider. Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. It was just it was interesting to me that I was getting a lot of like weird tribal talk because I showed up at a place that people perceived me to dislike or hate or whatever. Yeah. Which really doesn't make, well, okay. Actually, let me kind of back up because I don't know if I ever put this out there, but maybe some way I was putting the energy out there. I didn't consciously put it out there, but when Snow Valley first opened, I knew about them. So I think I reached out to them and I was like, hey, basically no. I was going to say I set something up with them, but that was Sky Park. Snow Valley had opened. I went, didn't talk to them. I bought a ticket, and they had one trail at that time, and it was not good. But that's okay, because like I knew that they were just getting started. Like nobody else had done anything like this, like a lift access bike park, other than Snow Summit that's been there for, it's established. So this was a brand new thing. And I learned that the one trail that they had was hand dug. So I gave them tons of leeway. I was like, yeah, okay, cool. This internally, I'm thinking this place is not good, but they are another lift access bike park. And they're only 30 minutes from Snow Summit. They're 30 minutes from Sky Park. And so we're going to have another bike park in Southern California, which is freaking awesome. And I gave them the benefit of the doubt. I made a video on them and I said, hey, they're a work in progress, but go support them because another bike park in Southern California will be awesome. And it's only going to make everybody more stoked. I made that video. It got decent amount of views. People were stoked on it. But then Snow Valley, the owners at that time, new owners now, but the owners at that time, or whomever, grabbed my video, clipped out a part of it, and then put their branding on top of it, and then used that as an ad for their bike park. They never talked to me, nothing. And I didn't know about it until somebody clued me in on it. And then I reached out to them and I was like, hey, I saw that and I tried to be cool. I was like, hey, can we work something out? Or at least take it down, something. And their response was like, fuck you. You gotta, if you really want to do something, you need to talk to our blah, blah, corporate, whatever. And so I had to go searching for their information. I sent a message. I got nothing back. I eventually had to talk to a lawyer and basically have a cease and desist written up. And eventually, so I had to send this lawyer's letter to them. And then finally, no response. They took it down like very shortly after I sent that email. No apology, no nothing. And that really put a bad taste in my mouth. Just how they operate. And so I was not stoked on them and I wasn't going to go back for a really long time. And eventually they started getting more trails. And I think at that point, somebody from there reached out to me. And at that point I was willing to go hey, somebody's reaching out. It's cool. They've got more trails. And then I did a video on them and, I got a bunch of flack on that one because they have a trail called Crazy Horse. And I reached out to them and I was like, hey, are you connected with Lakota Indians or what's the deal? And they never got back to me. And in my video, all I said was, without any other context other than the other trail names, it seems like a cultural appropriation because their trail names are all kind of Wild West themed. And you have stuff like Gunsmoke, right? Which is like a old, was that a movie or a TV show? You have Gunsmoke, and then you have Sidewinder and Greenhorn and Bandit, Winchester, all Gun and Sundance, which is also has its questionable aspects to it, but and then you have Crazy Horse. So you have all these like just kind of like somewhat generic, somewhat like, you know, like not like real like Western. It's not like historical. It's like TV. It's like kind of all not exactly kitschy, but you know, it's like Crazy Horse thrown into that is just weird. Like it treats this like indigenous people's hero and somebody who died in a really terrible way. It treats them, it puts them along the name of a gun, the name of, you know, a term for somebody who's a noob, you know, greenhorn. It puts them, you know, in next to Sidewinder, a snake, things like that. And it just like, it just felt a little bit weird. I didn't say like, hey, don't go cancel these people, blah, blah, blah. It was just like one mention I made. And I'm like, every comment was like just a hate on that. So yeah, I didn't mean to go into all that, but maybe some people were kind of picking up on that, but I did another video on them and, it was fine. And then I just recently at the beginning of the season did a video. I showed all the trails and, it's weird that, I get people kind of responding to me as if I hate the place or something, which doesn't make any sense because I'm there riding and having a good time. People are weird. But yeah, so what I'm going to take away from it is when I'm feeling defensive about these things, which maybe I'm being a little defensive right now, is I need to remind myself that maybe I'm being a little myopic, and when I'm getting defensive about things, I need to just kind of open up and broaden my view of things and look at the bigger picture. Hey, wisdom and stuff. All right, yeah. Thanks again for your support, and how long did we go? I don't know, but I'll see you on the next one.